welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. Guys, it's the off season. I'm going to call this the off season of anger and angst because I think that's really the vibe that I'm getting. I'm Steve.
I'm Connor.
Lucas.
And no Jay tonight. Jay had better things to do. He had other engagements. He sends his regrets and he sends some thoughts.
You said anger and angst?
Anger and angst.
I'm on the apathy bandwagon right now.
Oh, another
I just don't care.
Okay.
It's the off season.
All right, we'll get that. We'll give
Who
it
cares?
the trifecta, anger, angst, and apathy.
Yep.
All right. I feel like that's the vibe, though. I feel like out in the zeitgeist of OU fandom, no one's happy. No one's satisfied. Everyone's on edge. I think there's a lot of apathy. I think there's a lot of screw it. Now, we have some good news from today. So the Sooners hire as football GM, how do you say it, Jim Nagy? Is it Nagy? Nagy.
I would say Nagy.
Okay. We'll find out in coming weeks, I'm sure.
N-A-G-Y.
I don't know. He probably won't get interviewed just like, interview coordinators.
He may not have the
Nobody.
Well, if Brent's in control of that, he probably isn't in control of this. So sounds like a really big hire to me. Jay thought it was a really big hire. So he's been running the Senior Bowl for the last 6 years, and
it's really turned it into a product.
An event, product. Yeah, he seems to be real engaged. He's going to run and coordinate recruiting and all kinds of introductory personnel. I don't know. Obviously, you got to work hand in hand with what Brent wants, and it's not like recruiting has been a weak point, but he could strengthen it. It sounds like that'll be a point of emphasis for NIL, and that's his major focus. That could be really good if that directs efforts. Now, obviously, that's a changing landscape and will change more. It's a lot of unknowns, but I guess the expectation is that there's going to be a lot of organization there. And from here on out, the university is going to play a leading role, more obviously a leading role in determining where NIL dollars come from, go to, and all of that. So it's very professionalized, and it sounds like they hired a professional to do it. So I feel good about it. What do you guys think?
I mean, I haven't kept up as much of with when Curtis Lofton left and the GM responsibilities and all that stuff, but reading today, building out his staff in the sense of an NFL front office, I think it's necessary nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got to start treating this as a semi-pro type of sport and operation. And this guy seems like he's a great one to do it. I mean, everything that I'm reading today on social media from neutral fans or pundits saying that, this is more than a home run. This is a grand slam type of hire. It has to bode well for the off the field activities. So I'm hopeful. I mean, you're not going to it's obviously not going to be something that I think translate a lot to what we see this season on the field, but to strengthen the program holistically in terms of where we're headed in the near future is great. So something we needed.
I think it's such a fluid situation with what that job's going to entitle because things change monthly with the outlook of what NCAA football is going to look like and what the rules and regulations are, whether it's going to be the salary cap or whether it's going to be, any kind of just a cap on what each school is going to do for each position or
structure. What
structure they're going to do, how much money you want to invest on bringing transfer portal players in, and how much you want to invest with keeping the players that are really good, like we've done on the defensive line this season. I've talked about losing my taste a little bit for college football with all the crazy transfer portal stuff. Maybe it gets to the point where they go back to have to sit out a year moving from one school to another, other than graduate players. And then you can focus more on keeping your own guys and not just playing free agent money tossing around everywhere.
Well, I think in a different sense, this is maybe a lot of progress there, because I could see what they do is they get to a point where before there's no one leading it. There's no leadership. And a head coach doesn't really necessarily have the expertise nor the time to manage that. You need someone who's a manager who understands the budget, understands the direction, has a full picture of what are we doing, where are we going, what can we do. So he's never caught flat-footed with some situation that comes up and oh God, throw money at him. What kind of money? I don't know. What's the right amount of money? He's got an answer for everything
It's a different
because that's
skill
his
set.
sole job. Different
From
skill
being a
set.
man to being
Uh,
a general manager and being a coach.
right. So this to me, this could be a real positive there, in that if the right guy for this kind of a job will understand all of that and have a very coherent plan and a full strategy, so that it, at every level, even not just the stuff that comes up out of nowhere, but just I know what we're doing this month, I know what we're doing in 6 months, and I know what we're doing in 2 years. And here's the game plan of where we're headed with that. And here's the budget we need, so that he can go back on the donor side and say, here's what we need, and here's how those donor dollars are going to be used. Not, we really need your money, which is what it's really been up to this point. And it's like, okay, how are you spending this money? What is it going towards? What is it doing? That just a complete plan the whole way through. So I'm real optimistic from that standpoint. I think that's what it's going to take to be successful. I hope this is someone who can enable that success. I don't know how he fits in with Randall Stevenson in that, but I imagine that's another
Pretty
piece in a puzzle
hand-in-hand type
that's
of thing.
gonna, yeah, work coherently on a very business side of this entire organization.
So
Which
what
then
is
lets Brent go do his
Stevenson's?
thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's one of those things where if you're Castiglione and Harris, you're saying Brent, like you handle the football, you handle the play.
Right.
Like, tell us who you're looking at
What do you
and let's
need?
go start
Mhm.
making that happen. What is Randall Stevenson's role again? I
Head of
forget, like
football operations.
football
He's
operations.
taking care of everybody's cell phone bills because he's a
That's
former
right.
AT&T guy.
Yeah, he got
is.
grandfathered in.
Yeah.
They get upgraded to
Every time they do that, $20 to add a line. They've just done the whole football team
There you go.
for like, a couple grand.
Yeah,
Everybody gets cell
It's a
phones.
great deal. It's a great deal.
Football operations, yeah.
So I don't know exactly, other than it's got to be business office, back
Right.
office related, and I think he'll be another person that has obviously the skill set for that. So I take it as a real positive. It's a much better hire. No offense, but a much better hire on paper than Curtis Lofton. This is somebody
Getting
who,
outside of the nepotism again.
getting outside the nepotism and getting someone with deep experience in this. Now maybe Curtis Lofton comes back and in 10 years he's that kind of a guy. And but he has not gotten that experience yet. He doesn't seem, there's no reason to expect he has that skill set.
And at a program at OU, that's not just a place you can go and learn a job.
Right.
like
We don't want you learning on the job.
Yeah.
You
But we're
hit the ground running.
bigger than that.
I wonder how much involvement Nagy has with the Senior Bowl invites, because that would be a situation where is he watching film and looking at stats around the country to see, who he's actually bringing into that camp, or is he just talking to NFL GMs and seeing who they want to be brought in for the actual?
I can imagine it's a
Senior
little of
Bowl.
both. I mean, he has I think he was a NFL scout for like 6 years
Yeah,
or something like
I think
that.
so.
So, and it sounds like he has a really well-rounded resume in terms of kind of what he's being asked to do. So that's a good point, though. I mean, I don't know. For what he made it, like he capitalized on the entire thing, whether it was him making some of the decisions or working with the NFL directly to make those decisions.
He made it work.
He made it
NFL's
work, and he made it work really well.
They bragged as much about the Senior Bowl setup, because they bring in coaching staffs to run that.
Right.
They bragged about how well run that is, as much as or more than the combine
Right.
lately, because
Which is saying
it's
something.
not just you're in your underwear and you're out there
Running drills.
running drills, and most quarterbacks nowadays don't throw.
Throwing against
I mean, the top, I heard a stat, and Baker was the first one of this stat that didn't throw on combine day.
He did a
So
pro day.
yeah, so everyone from Baker to current, that's the highest drafted quarterback, hasn't thrown at the combine. They've just done it at the pro day, which he wasn't the first one to do that or anything.
Right.
He was just the first of the current 8-year streak, or however many years that's been, from 2017 to current. So it sounds like, getting to go good versus good at the Senior Bowl is better, just a better way to gauge guys than just out there 40 times and cone drills and high jumps and long jumps.
Well, because a great athlete can look really good in those that are just a singular goal, statistics driven. How fast can you do this? How quick can you do this? Putting it all together and actually performing on the field. I mean, to be honest, like we could go back and we could start naming players who I'm sure had really good combine like stats and were not very good football players.
Yeah, I mean, they go to these camps, and if your 40 speed is just a little off, you're running a 4.45, and you know that working with this guy is going to get you to a 4.38,
Right.
and you just focus on getting that 40 time so you get drafted higher.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to equate
Does it
to
translate? Yeah.
the way you take off from the line in a 40 isn't the way you're turning your hips and running with a receiver as a corner.
Sure, exactly.
And so going to the Senior Bowl and actually what Billy Bowman did, like he's picking
Yeah.
off Jalen Milroe just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they're on Owen Field,
And you never
one
would
after
see
another.
that on just looking at him in a
And when you're
combine
watching the combine,
situation.
you're just seeing what he ran and how high he jumped.
Anyway, it gets back to something we've said so many times: when the lights go on, it's different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you look, and this is a real extreme example, but like the Wes Welker phenomenon. Like, I'm sure his combine stuff was just mediocre every day. It didn't matter how much he worked at it, but he's a great football player.
Well, look at Orlando Brown. I mean, one of the worst
He did like
combines
eight,
ever.
Mhm.
whatchamacallit,
Eight
bench press or
reps,
something like that.
8 reps on bench, and
Sorry.
And then, he's been a Pro Bowler in
Yeah.
the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, it took him a couple years to get there, but who cares how many times you can lift a 225-pound bar?
Right.
It's in one sequence
Yep.
as opposed
yeah, it's
to
all about context.
pushing
Yep.
guys. And a lot of
And
times,
seeing
a lot of
what to do.
times, the guys with longer arms can't bench press very well.
Right.
But that's what you want as a left tackle.
Right.
That's what you want as a right tackle because you can
Yeah,
fend
range.
off those defensive ends and push them around the quarterback so he can step up in the pocket. But who cares that he didn't bench it 25 times?
Well, and that's what I guess there was a quote that came out today about what Nagy's kind of mantra was for the Senior Bowl. It was the draft starts in Mobile and making it a true, this is the opening to the draft and what you're going to start.
Yeah.
Where players start getting evaluated after their
Well,
college career.
And
So
it shows that he's got an understanding of marketing and brand and how that all fits together and how much that matters.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure to a big extent there was true value in all of that, but it's also the marketing that gets it there. So he was able to put it all together, and part of recruiting is marketing. So he needs to be able to get into doorways and get people to pick up phones or text back before they can even begin to make an offer. And that's part of the marketing. They got to say, oh, OU's calling, and they know what they're doing.
yeah,
So that's important.
I wish there was some like measurable output that we could, consume to say like this is where
working?
he's made the difference.
Yeah, it's all
compared
gonna be
to-
word of mouth until we see
Yeah.
results.
I mean, it's like I'd love to see, comparables between here's what Curtis Lofton was doing and here's what we're doing now and the differences
And they
stuff
never
like
would do
that.
that.
No, exactly.
But it would be nice to see that. It would be nice to see. Well, I guess, and this kind of could translate into a criticism. I, at the very least, would like to see more than just a press release
Mhm.
about this guy's going to do a great job. Like, at some point, give us his plan, give
Yeah.
us his strategy, and here's what I'm
Show me
trying
the
to
vision.
accomplish.
Yeah.
Show me the vision. Show us, and I know it's a moving target with a very fluid situation, but still, tell us what you plan to do with NIL. You know, my small piddly little contribution versus some mega donor, but mine could add up with lots of people like me. We'd be willing to open our wallets and do a little something if we felt like it was going to go towards something
This
real,
specific thing.
really valuable.
Mhm.
Yeah, when they talk about these $15 a month, payments to better your school, is it better because they bought, 10 more Gatorade jugs for practice?
Right.
Or is it actually going to something that's useful
Yeah.
that makes a difference on the field when you're there watching?
And we need that now, not after the results, because it's a catch-22. We know that it's going to take some of this to get to the results, right?
Yeah.
And so, sure, we could say, look at us, rewind the clock a couple years and it's Alabama and they're winning national championships and playing for national championships every year. Yeah, that's easy. And you don't have to do a lot of convincing to say we're on the right track in that environment. But you can't assume we're going to get there without these donations and without a good coherent plan that everyone can believe in.
Yeah.
The donations won't necessarily come. So a lot to be seen there. Another really, I think, big name hire that went a little bit under the radar, at least as far as I could tell, was Kevin Wilson. So coming on as an analyst, I think that's a great deal.
We started talking about that, 2/3 way through the season when it
Yep.
looked like he might be done at Tulsa.
Yeah.
We actually said, is there any chance?
Yeah,
But we also were like, well, we did that with Seth Luttrell, but Kevin Wilson probably has more of a pedigree than Latrell.
Way more pedigree, way more.
And it would be nice if you're bringing him in at that kind of position because now they can
Mhm.
coach on the field.
Yep.
So if your offensive coordinator's in the box and you can have Kevin Wilson on the sideline along with Bill Beatonbow,
Yep.
along with DeMarco Murray, that could be a huge difference in
Oh.
just quarterback coaching
Everything.
as opposed to them having to get on the phone and talk to Arbuckle. He's already on the headset, seeing how the game develops.
Mhm.
And then when the quarterback comes to the sideline, he can immediately be in his ear and say, this is what they're seeing, show him on the iPad or whatever.
Yeah.
Without having to just sit down the phone and kind of,
I
take it
actually
from there.
think, I think all that'll be very valuable. I actually expect his number one value will be in the week leading up to a game.
Yeah.
And everything he can do, breaking down film, breaking down strategy. Here's how I would attack this. Here's what I would be doing. He can spend some quality time with quality eyes on guys that Arbuckle's somewhere else. And he can say, all right, here's my perspective on what you're doing. Or he can zoom out and see how things fit together if he's doing his job right. It's a huge valuable tool if they can use it. Part of that is a culture issue and everybody working together. I can't imagine Arbuckle would feel threatened by him. I would hope not. And everyone else should embrace it. That would be a litmus test to me. I'd be quick to be very critical, if not, that's a hot seat issue if any assistant coach decides they don't like him up in his business.
Yeah. I think, and to your point, I'm hoping there's not any sort of like ego issue like that because this should be viewed purely as an advantage to Arbuckle. To have someone like Kevin Wilson as an analyst to bounce ideas off of or to get feedback from.
Absolutely.
And then, like you said, leave him in a room and not have to worry about him saying something he shouldn't say or preaching a different sort of strategy that you don't want him to preach.
Right.
And I think Kevin Wilson's been around enough where he'll fit right in. He'll know his place and what he's there to do. I don't think there's going to be any sort of.
No, he doesn't seem like a big ego guy. Like, some people that just wouldn't be able to pull this off. He seems like the kind of guy who could fit into a role.
he's got a big personality.
He does
tell
have
you
a big
that. I
personality.
can tell you what the number one thing I think he's here for. And it's not anything we've talked about. I think with Brent calling the defense, Kevin Wilson will essentially be an assistant head coach on the sideline
Telling him
during
when
gameplay.
clock time.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
it's going to be when
Kinda
we're
like
going
Matt
for it,
Wells was
when we're
supposed to
going
be
for it
here
on fourth down.
Yep.
What we need to do timeout wise.
That could be huge.
If we're
if he only does that, could be
because if
that wins us a couple games
Brent's
in the last few
looking,
years.
if he's over on the sideline going over what just happened with the defense, and we've got the ball, and you've already gone. Now it's 3rd and 6 or something like that, and now it's 4th and 2 on the plus 48. He didn't have to go there and turn around. Hey Brent, he's like, oh, what's the situation? What's going on? Kevin Wilson's already made the call. We're going for it.
Yeah, he could be the guy whose only job on the sidelines is you have to know when the timeouts are going to be called and when they're not. You have to know down and distance to know when we should be going for it on 4th down. Or the thing we're not thinking about, you're always yes. Every time they turn around, Kevin's got it. And
he's
Kevin's
got
call.
Tons of experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, was he an amazing coach in Indiana? He had a couple good runs.
It's Indiana.
He didn't have anything at Tulsa, but just from when he was at OU, everything he did with that offense while he was here.
And he had great experience. All of that was positive experience.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch Tulsa football every game, right? But I don't think the track record of Kevin Wilson at Tulsa was this just blemish after blemish of guy can't manage a game.
Yeah.
It's Tulsa football.
Players.
Yeah, and like Kevin Wilson, I think is a classic example of he's a coordinator. I mean, he thrived as a coordinator at OU, thrived as a coordinator at Ohio State. And I think that's just kind of, he fits in that type of role. And I know he's an analyst here, so.
And now he becomes a game coordinator.
Yeah, exactly. He can be the offensive eyes for Brent while Brent's over there dealing with defense. Then it's a no-lose situation to me.
Yeah, I love that idea of here's when we go for it and when not to. And here is when you need to call a timeout and when you don't. When it says no, don't burn this timeout right now. I know it's the start of the 3rd quarter. You're going to need this. Don't do it.
Did he call plays at Tulsa?
I think so.
Yeah, I thought he did.
I think so, but I can't confirm that. I don't.
I think I remember seeing him on the sideline with the play chart.
That seems right. Well, let's transition and talk about some things that maybe are a little less pleasant. And kind of get some ideas. So we ran a poll this week about if you could fire one of these three coaches with no buyout that you had to pay, who would you choose? And one of the choices was none of them. Keep them all. I said coaches. It's actually three people. The three choices were Porter Moser, Brent Venables, Joe Castiglione. So, and I have to say, I accidentally fat fingered my poll result on one of my X accounts, and so
You got a burner too?
oh yeah, I got so many burners. It's not a burner; it's just a different organization. And that one, I meant to say Porter Moser, but I accidentally said none of them because as I was scrolling, it hit the button. So it's the polls results came out. None of them was 27%. Brent was 14. Porter was 41. Joe Castiglione 18. It really should have been 23 for none and 46, almost a majority for Porter, with 14 and 18 still for Brent and Joe C. I thought those were interesting results. I think it speaks to that angst and anger. I would love to see the comparable in any other year if we tried to put that together, and I'm sure this is by far the lowest the none of them would get. And I mean, by a margin. I can't imagine
What was the percent on none?
20, well, it should have been 23%. Yeah. So
I'm even shocked that it's that high, honestly.
I don't understand
I
that
was too
either
when I saw it.
because I don't see.
Unless you're just
So-
looking through just ridiculously red.
So here's the way I'm looking at it. I can see
Hardcore homers.
I could see, I guess, I could see people being totally disconnected and not seeing the fact that Joe C he's not on a hot seat, but he should be on a warm seat. And I think anyone halfway engaged sees it for what it is and has to start saying there's question marks about the Joe C leadership at this point. And this was run before the obviously Nagy hire. It was after the Wilson hire. Yeah, because that was last week. But still, you have to be questioning a lot of that, I think. But even if you're not, so obviously, if you said Joe C, then there's no way you're going to say none. If you're saying Brent, how are you not saying Porter?
Yeah.
And so how are you saying none if
Yeah.
it's all of them? If you think Brent needs to be fired, or if you're on the fence about that one and you jump to none, you don't care about basketball.
That's all.
Yes.
You just don't care
Yeah,
about
that's-
basketball.
I don't
Yeah,
understand.
I think I can, I've been a detractor of Brent some, especially last year, because I said I'm not sure he's the guy for the job, but I'm obviously willing to give him this year on the hot seat, essentially. But I think there's, like I said, apathy. OU basketball, I mean, I think college basketball in general has deteriorated
Yeah.
hardcore over the last 5 years. I don't know who's playing for who in any school.
Oh, I think
because-
it's deteriorated for longer than that. I think it's deteriorated for
well, locally, once the Thunder got
Right.
here, it's definitely gone down.
yeah. I
But
think
nationally, with all the one and done players going to the NBA, isn't anything really new because it's been going on for a while. But it seems
yeah,
like
like 20 years.
it seems like there's no superstar college players outside of Zion gets the
No.
year.
Well, we were talking about the Fab Five before we started,
Yeah.
and there's nothing comparable to that, and hasn't been
And they're
forever.
never. I don't know.
There never will be.
And
I mean-
Auburn has a senior laden team, and they're
Mhm.
number one in the country. I can't name a single Auburn player.
Yeah,
And we
Just
played
not the
them this
same.
year.
Well, they're all. But they're. I mean, when we played them, I was listening to the radio broadcast, and instead of just announcing players now, they announce players and where they transferred from. And I kid you not, all 4 out of 5 Auburn starters were transfers.
Yeah.
All 5 of OU starters are transfers, except 4 of 5. Godwin's not. Well, no, Godwin transferred from like a JUCO or something
Yeah.
a while back, which
Well,
that's a little different.
Fears is freshman.
Yeah, Fear's a freshman, but I mean, that's just kind of what it is.
College basketball is not fun anymore.
I
it's just not- I don't
so-
get geeked up for the bracket like I used to. I begrudgingly fill it out, but
yeah, and I don't know how
I
much
don't-
of that. I feel the same way, but I don't know how much of that's just.
I haven't
I'm at
gone to a
different point in
single
my
OU
life.
basketball game this year. And the last 2 years, I went to 4 or 5 last year and 3 or 4 the year before.
Mhm.
I mean, during the the Blake Griffin days, I think I missed 3 that whole season.
Right.
Well, I mean his junior year, I missed 3 the whole year. The Trey Young year, I probably went to 5 or 6 that year, and it's just slowly
But I
declined
watched
to now.
I watched every one of that
I've watched 4 OU
in
basketball
Trey
games this
Young
year
year. And
on TV.
I mean I was deep into it with Buddy Hield
Yeah.
and those like
I went to Buddy Hill.
to me, I don't think I can separate. I can't evaluate it because to me, it's just two things: the deterioration of OU basketball and the administrative decisions to make it such a bad fan experience
It's awful.
that's been going and deteriorating for years.
And you said the Trey Young year. That was, I think, the tipping point of the trend that we see now
I agree.
of very, very good front half non-con schedule and play and
Get you excited.
winning, get you excited, get you on the boat. We've done that
We beat
almost
ranked
every
teams.
year. We've done that
This
almost
year
every year
yeah.
since then. And it's the classic Porter Moser and even Lon Kruger in the back half of his career.
Yep.
At
Once
OU,
conference play starts,
you start conference play and you can't win games.
you're not even winning 5. You're not even 500.
No. And like it's wild. And there's I forget his name, and I think you at least told me about him. I looked him up, but there's a guy who does like raw power rankings and like basically says like I remember there was one year OU was ranked like I think it was Trey Young's year. We got up in the top 5. We were ranked very high. And this dude had us at like 16 or something like that. And was like, this is, a lot of people are going to disagree
Smoke
with
and
this, but it's just, this isn't real.
Yeah.
And sure enough, conference play rolls around and we can't freaking win a game.
Mhm.
So it's just, and like I said, Steve, if there's ever just an indictment on Joe C, it's not only the lack of action to increase that experience, it's just the lack of addressing it. And then what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a horrible taste to send an email he sends last week.
Oh, the tone deaf.
The tone deaf, yeah. The tone deaf email asking fans for money. And it's just like, man, I don't know, like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Because I've never cared less about OU basketball than I do this season.
Right now. Yeah.
Ever.
We're currently losing at halftime by 2 to Kentucky.
And I couldn't care less.
We actually took the lead by 1 with 2 or 3 minutes left and then gave it up. And it's currently, as of this taping, it's a halftime. We're down by 2 to a team that's obviously the biggest blue blood there is in college basketball, outside maybe UCLA.
But yeah.
I mean, Kentucky
North
historically's
Carolina.
got
I mean, they're
just-
right there. We just named the top 4.
Yeah.
So.
But
and they've never played. And I was trying to tell what the crowd looked like. It looks like it's a pretty good crowd, but it's
still
none of us care.
It's not what, yeah. And,
We're doing a
but
podcast
that
during
was the thing last year is like we drew
during
a
the
couple
game.
big crowds last year when we were playing well,
And we drew big crowds this year.
and we lose.
Yeah.
So it's like
Embarrassing.
every time I get out for a game,
Well,
I'm
that
like, this
A&M
is going to be
game
great.
this
The A&M
year.
game, you blow a 20-point lead in the
18
second
point
half.
lead. Yeah,
you had a chance, and that was really a turning point right there.
you lose
That's
to
where it
Texas.
was clear.
Bad Texas.
A bad
team.
Texas team, and don't really look that competitive.
Yeah,
So it's, we've been on the Porter's not the man for a long time. I like him. He's a very good person. I think
I like what he's done going to like the sororities and
I love it.
fraternities
I love it.
and pitching the program. And you
Yes.
guys come out and play the game or
Yeah.
come out and watch the game. And
That's all
he
great.
seems like all that's great, but we're not getting the players to compete.
But it's compensation for the fact that I think he knows he's not very good, and like I need to put butts in seats. And something I would compare it to, and the reason I'm on the Fire Porter train is because I don't think he's that good of a coach.
I don't either.
And I think if you wanted to look at kind of a parallel peripheral sport, you look at something like baseball, who's fighting tooth and nail for every dollar they can get. And you got a guy like Skip Johnson, which was a home run hire and was a home run retainment when we all thought he was going to go to A&M a couple years ago.
Or Texas.
Yeah, back to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And Skip Johnson,
I thought it was A&M.
was it A&M?
I thought it was Texas, and then Texas got A&M's coach.
It was one of the other.
Yeah,
It was
whichever.
back to one of those
Yeah.
schools. But
And he's bringing in talent every year.
he's bringing in talent, and even when he's down, he was down last year, and he goes
Still competitive.
and he hosts a regional.
Yeah.
As a 2 seed.
Yeah.
So it's like that tells you, guy with limited resources guy who's not getting crowds because it's
Mhm.
OU baseball, and he's
And
going
another thing
putting out a
administratively
great
they
product.
screw up.
Yeah.
They screw up getting baseball crowds there. They have a point of view that I think is a complete marketing mistake from top to bottom. I think that game should be a free game to attend or a nominal, like, let's fill this arena or this stadium. Let's sell a lot of hot dogs. Let's sell a lot of Cokes. Let's get a bunch of kids in that are 10 and 12 years old and let's get them involved in this and interested so they grow up liking this. And we'll build a program that's similar to what you see in the rest of the SEC, where they've got these legacy programs that people show up for that are in many cases mediocre.
Yeah.
At least it's a mediocre team this year, and they're still showing up to see their team. That's what you have to do to build it, but we don't do that. We don't make decisions like that. I don't understand it. I think it's really bad. It's a bad business plan all around. So when you look at Porter, I feel like the mistake is the mid-major decision.
Yeah.
He's a mid-major guy, and I think those guys have a tendency to be fool's gold. They look good when they have a couple of good years, and inevitably, because of the way the tournament works, they will get into the tournament, and it's mathematically certain some of them are going to win, and just a few of them are going to win and look good, and you start to get excited about that and think you've found something that's a real gem, and it's not, and then it compounds the issue when you start paying them the big salaries that you command when you're at this level of a league, and it's a mismatch, and so it's a bad expectation. It's full, shame on us for as a university, as a program, for thinking this was going to be a solution. It's not. I hope they don't make the same mistake, or if they do, pay a guy comparable to what he is and say, if it works out, look, the acceleration path is going to be tremendous, but don't pay him from the get-go as if he's won anything.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't done anything yet.
He hasn't made the tournament.
Yeah.
And he lost the freaking
He's been the bubble first 4 out all 3 years.
yeah, and then goes and loses his opening NIT game to oh my gosh, it was
so bad.
yeah, it was bad.
It's
I was there.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
But,
Yeah, I remember that. God, I can't remember who that was. So I don't know. I feel bad for the guy, but I feel bad for a program. And you're going to right the ship. I think you got to have a better plan. You got to know who you are in this world.
and quit putting massive buyouts in for guys who don't deserve it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Give him a structured deal that says, look, the buyout is if you succeed, you're going to jump $2 million in the first year or whatever it is, depending on the performance. Like, don't worry about money. We're going to come to the table with money if you win. They're not coming to the table with money unless you win. And so the negotiation starts when you start winning, not from the get-go, as if just throwing money at a guy is going to get results. It won't. So that's frustrating to me.
Lost to St. Bonaventure.
There you was, yeah.
Sorry,
Right.
in the second round. I apologize.
Oh, was that last year or 2 years ago?
It was 2022.
Yeah.
First season.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
first
declined the
season.
NIT.
We
Yeah,
declined,
we
yeah.
didn't go last year.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that?
It was 2 years ago. It was 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years
Yeah.
ago. How do you guys feel about the
Well,
declining NIT?
I don't like it. I think it's
I think it's signaling very bad.
yeah. So, and we may have talked about this. I'm slightly of a mixed mind. It's sort of like, well, I'll say that I may not know everything going into that decision, and so if there's certain factors that are bigger than I'm weighing them, I'll give them the out that I understand what they're doing. So if you're going to say, okay, look, it's a distraction and an expense, and we actually want to refocus efforts and we want to spend our time, we can practice and do our own thing. These guys can go, I want to go recruit. I want to go recruit for transfers and scout for transfers. I want to do that work. Don't distract me with the games. I get it. But I don't know if that's really true. To me, it's like arrogant.
Yeah.
And you're passing up an opportunity to get more time together with these guys and make that work. Now, this year, I want him to decline
100%.
because I want him to cut. I want it to be done. I mean, I want Porter to be gone tomorrow.
Well, after last season, what if you had Owe, Uzan, McCollum all saying we're not playing in that tournament. We're all transferred.
Yeah, that's what I was about to
And
say.
you can't really put a team together that's not
Yeah.
completely embarrassing.
Thank you for reminding me. That is the other thing that I thought of at the time. or that was brought up that is correct. If you can't build a product that's worthwhile,
Yeah.
yes, I get that. I get that. Now, I think my counter to that was, I'm remembering all this, was there's guys on that team who, if they want to, they deserve a chance to play. And you kind of have to go to them to say, look, seniors especially, do you guys want to do this? Because if you want to do this, I'm here for you. Even if we get beat, we're going to go out there and we're going to be in the tournament and we're going to give it a chance.
But if it comes to expense of you're facing, say Michigan didn't make it, and you're going to go in the first round of the NIT to go play Michigan or something,
Sure.
and you're going to spend $18,000 to send all your guys there.
I bet it's
for
I
a
bet it's
weekend.
50,000.
Yeah, okay, so $50,000 between hotels, airfare, food,
Sure.
all the stuff involved. You're like, that's 50
You
grand
could
we don't need to
redirect.
spend.
Yeah, I
Because
get it.
we've
I get
lost
it.
these guys that aren't going to play. There's literally no
I
point
get
in
it.
going.
No, I get that. I hate being in a position where we're having to make those kind of decisions, but
Right.
you do have to make those decisions when you're in them. And like I say, I don't know all of the relevant factors and how to weight them, but it rubs me the wrong way when they decline it in most years. Some of that's the aesthetics of doing it, and I have to look past that if it's a dollar cents thing and just a practicality of what's the best for the long term of the program. I do hate the fact that there are seniors and juniors who have been just guys that are playing and they're not transferring anywhere. They're never going to play anywhere. And they've been in there every practice, working their butts off. And you're kind of just saying, yeah, you weren't important to us. We really didn't care. That kind of bugs me.
I mean, is the window of opportunity for OU basketball? I mean, at what point? I mean, I never want to say never in anything. We've seen teams come from the brink of,
Sure, absolutely. And they can.
And they can.
We're a big program with big money. And
I just think it needs to happen. I mean, in today's landscape, just college sports landscape, the window's never closed,
Right.
but the window's a lot harder to get open.
That's right.
Than what it was.
I think you're right.
And I think the buyout is an issue.
Yep.
Like you can't just say, I'm going to go pay Porter Moser $7.5 million to leave.
Is that for sure what it is?
I don't know.
I've heard that.
I think it's 7.5.
I've heard that
I
too.
think
So
Stoya posted that.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, okay, that's what I saw. I was like, I saw it somewhere. So
because we talked about this a little bit at dinner. It's like if you're going to pay him $7.5 million to walk away and you're starting over, would it be more prudent to spend 4 or 5 of that million to get 3 good players to give him a chance to win next year? But then the buyout goes down again, however many million, it goes to 5 the next year, whatever it is.
But you're not hoping to fire him.
Right. You're hoping that you spending that money on players
ain't gonna work.
kickstarts.
It's Porter. It ain't gonna.
But I mean, at that point, it's like at this point, OU is at a low, like especially if you don't go and win what you need to win to get into a tournament.
Yeah.
Then it's like, I'm kind of with you. Like, it's not going to get. The only thing that you're hurting in the long run is the fact that it's the longer that people see OU sucks, and you're not going to have a brand to sell.
Right. Well.
So
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's.
To me, the question is, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And what is our
What do you want to
realistic
pay
thing?
for?
And I don't think the realistic goal for OU can be met by Porter.
No.
The realistic goal for OU is to make the tournament every year, to be competitive in the conference, to basically to do what Kelvin Sampson did and what Billy Tubbs did to a lesser degree. And Porter's never going to do that. He's just not going to be able to get over that hump and get to that level. I don't think Lon even got to the level of what OU basketball should be.
No, I think
he
Lon
left
hit a lottery with that 2016
For
team.
sure. Yeah.
And it kind of was just like, all right, we're going to ride this wave.
I mean, between 2 guys, Buddy Hield and Trey Young, aside from a lot of other great players, I mean, take those players away from him, and we're really disappointed in that team.
Well, and that was obviously that was the furthest, but outside of that, what was the furthest we'd gotten in a tournament with Lon? Round of 32? I don't know if we got past the round of 32
aside from that
season. I can't think of any season.
No, we didn't.
But back to what Connor was saying, like, it's kind of like saying, what does it really hurt if you go another year or 2 of not accomplishing? Because
I think
basketball is a different sport than football. Football, you're building a program full of 100 guys. In basketball, you need to have, was there 15 guys on the team?
Yeah.
So with the turnover of college basketball now, where literally you can't name a player from year to year that's still on your squad. So next year you have a bad year, and then you have another bad year, and then you fire Porter, and then you bring in a new guy, and he brings 4 players with him from whatever school he's at, let's say. You bring in a guy that's at a Power 4 team,
Sure, right. Now I get
and
it.
literally that guy can turn around in 1 year,
But that only works.
and it
in
didn't
the-
really affect
But
those,
that only
those
matters.
5 losing seasons.
Only
Really
want
didn't
to
do
wait,
anything program.
but you only want to do that if you actually think Porter can win, and he can't. I don't think he can. So that only
I'm
makes
talking about
sense.
saving. I'm talking about not spending the $7.5 million on a buyout now, and then
Well, that's just
you
$2
fire
million.
him in 2 years, and it's $1 million.
Well, I
And
don't
then
know
you
what
bring in your brand new guy.
I don't know what it is. So if you think you were going to save $6 million by waiting 2 years, in the scheme of OU basketball, $6 million isn't enough to wait. I think you get going now with where you want the future to be. You don't wait around to see what that's going to look like of having basically throw away 2 years. It's not like you're going to tank and get draft lottery picks or something. You're going to be starting from zero either. In
Yeah.
fact, you're starting from a worse
A
base
worse base, right?
if Porter sticks around and loses. I think you just swallow
Well, I
hard,
don't know
pay
what
the
makes
money,
it
and go.
worse.
The
If the
product's
turnaround
worse.
could be that, if the turnaround could be that
the
fast
name
with
is
a
worse.
brand new guy.
The ability to get that guy is going to be worse. Like the next guy isn't necessarily going to win.
I think the only thing I would like slightly counter it with is nowadays, if and you do have to worry about keeping Porter, and you're basically admitting defeat at that point. So losing donors. But let's just say for the sake of argument, you retain donor loyalty at some point
It's a
once you get a new guy.
Big assumption.
Big assumption. And nowadays with college basketball, I do think obviously brands are brands. You have the blue bloods that we mentioned, but outside of that, like if you throw bags at guys, you're gonna get them.
Well, I look at it more from the marketing, the strategy, though.
Mhm.
We're 4 years in the woods, at least, just the 4 Porter years.
I don't want to be a
The
transfer
brand
school.
has been bad under Lon. 2 more years in the woods, that's a long time to lose a lot of your fan base and have your fans not. Like, people don't remember what Billy Ball was, and they don't remember what the early days of Kelvin Sampson were like. And you don't get to just say, remember that and plug fans
No,
in.
it's
They
okay.
don't exist
Right.
anymore. I'm one of those fans, and I don't exist anymore. Yeah, if you've lost me, you've lost a lot.
Yeah.
So the marginal fan, you're not going to get. You need to get those guys, and the next guy might not work. To me, here's the strategy. In all cases, it's a crapshoot, and you're trying to get a guy who works, and you got to give him 3 or 4 years to see if it works. And if it's not working, you try again. And to me, you either go after. You maybe try to go get the big guy, but that's a big, expensive proposition. Or you get another guy who's an up and comer at a big program somewhere, like an assistant or somebody that's proven themselves and is very young.
Jeff Capel.
Yeah, maybe like a Jeff Capel.
Samson's-
Honestly,
Samson's
yeah, another,
done.
or you go get a mid-major guy and you pay him mid-major money, and you're willing to say we're going to experiment and see if it works, and we're going to go again. And it could be for an apologist for Porter. You could come in and you could say you went and got that new Porter Moser, and he just got lucky. And if you would have given Porter that opportunity, he would have succeeded. And that's just too bad. That's the way the world works. But we can't assume we have known evidence that Porter is not working. Let's go find known evidence the next guy is not going to work.
What if the analogy is you give Porter 2 more years because you don't want to do the buyout, you spend a little bit of that money to bring in players, and then it doesn't work out, and then 3 years from now, you become Ole Miss football. You bring in a guy that's been around that can coach, and then you pump some money into the program, and then all of a sudden it's a 1 or 2 year turnaround.
It could be, it might work, but it won't necessarily work.
But it doesn't. But I'm
Then I
saying
think
those
try
extra 2
that
years
now.
at Porter really don't affect that much
I think
because
they do.
Ole Miss had declined extensively until they brought Kiffin in, and then they got a guy that could coach, and then they started spending the money, and now they're a 10-2 team every year.
But
I
they
would-
hadn't lost the fan base.
Yeah, they hadn't lost the fan base. So Ole Miss football and
Fan
OU
base,
basketball,
I mean-
they're in 2 different realms.
What's the fan base doing for on the court?
Well,
Home court
I think
advantage
it matters.
outside
No,
of
I think it matters for the
Kansas,
entire
Duke,
program.
North Carolina doesn't mean anything.
Where are you going to get your donations if you don't have a fan base, right? The Ole Miss fan base proportionately in football is much bigger than the OU I'm going to guess much bigger than the OU basketball fan base.
Well, obviously, but those dollars aren't congruent because
I'm saying
it
proportional.
takes proportional. I mean, yeah, but when you bring in a new coach, you're going to get the excitement and get some more donors.
The other problem,
and you didn't just throw $7.5 million away in a problem.
or 6 or 5 or whatever the difference is. We don't know what the true difference is. If you fire him next year,
I
the
mean, I
next
think
year.
it goes down his salary essentially every year
Uh,
on his buyout. wouldn't
maybe
it?
I don't know. So even if
I don't know
it
how
is,
many years he's got left.
the most it could be is $7 million, and I don't think $7 million is enough for what we're talking
I'm
about.
assuming he
willing
has
to
3 years
gamble that.
left with $2.5 million per year that it goes down.
So
That's what I would guess.
So you got 2 years, you're saving $5 million. I spend the $5 million and let's get going. Versus throw five. Here's
But
what
you saw the statistics of the softball program compared to men and women's basketball, and they're all in the red.
Oh, yeah, deep in the red.
So you're spending football money to
Oh,
buy.
that's a whole nother issue.
You're
Yeah.
spending football money to get
Trust me.
Porter's buyout.
Trust me, I'd put all this money, 100% of it into football. But that's
So
just
if you
me.
don't spend the 7.5 and you let Porter sit and waste away for 2 more years, that's $5 million that you can spend towards OU football.
So one problem is, what if they win enough that you can't fire Porter Moser?
That's what I'm worried about.
And so you
Like if
he's
they beat
just
Kentucky?
gets good enough.
He's gonna. Like,
No, I don't mean just now. Like if we do this experiment next
again.
year and he's just good enough and he makes the tournament and we're like, remember the first few years of Sampson, and it was disappointing because he always had that early exit from the tournament. And I'll be honest, Sampson is a different coach today than he was way back then.
That's where Josie has to get better with that, though.
Yeah,
Like
no,
I think Josie rests on these tiny victories instead of seeing the big picture.
I mean, outside of 2 Sweet 16 years in a row, I don't think there's any way Porter gets to keep his job.
If he came in, if we do that
he
experiment,
makes the tournament,
and
he's
next year
keeping his job.
Next year we do your experiment of we put that money, which you're spending that money either way, right? Don't think you're banking that money because you're spending that money,
correct?
And those players could leave. So Porter's gone, they're probably gone. But so you spent that money and Porter stays. If he gets to definitely to the second round, you're not gonna fire him. You know, his point of view would be, what did you hire me for? Or what did you retain me for? You retained me with these players thinking you're going to get better. I made the tournament, which is one of the goals, and I just got to the second round, and you're going to fire me now? No, like, I don't think you can get rid of the guy. And that would fear.
I think you can.
I
Cato
don't
was
think
still
so,
making
but-
tournaments when they fired him.
I think you should, but you
should.
Was he though? He wasn't. They were bad.
They were really bad
After
that
Blake
last
Griffin
year.
left, they
went
got really,
bad.
really bad.
I mean, they had like the Willie Warren and
But we're saying that it just
Who's the
takes
big
this
guy that
much
played
to
the 1 year
keep
and got in
his
trouble?
job. And so if he just gets this much,
Tiny.
that doesn't mean he's good, Tiny Gallon.
I think so.
So if he's not going to get us to the Final Four ever. We need a guy who has a chance of getting us to the Final Four. If we retain him, the best case scenario is that he's a complete failure and we can get rid of him, and we've still spent the money because we went and got all these players
But
who
that's
are going
what
to be
worries
gone.
me is at this point I don't know if Josie sees that as the goal anymore.
I wonder about that too.
Like he would say it out loud. Obviously, you know, our goal at Oklahoma is to win championships, et cetera, et cetera. You're not showing me that. You're not like with what when. And again, I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite because I am an advocate for Brent, and I think.
Oh, I'm the same way. Yeah.
But it's like, and
damn homers.
Well, I'm at the
criticism
position.
should be.
That's where I'll be at the end of next season, though, or middle of next season. Like
if it goes the way.
Like if they're 8-4, I'm gonna have a little bit of heartache to say retain Brent. I mean, depends on the context and how it actually goes, but I'm looking for us to get to that level,
Yeah.
and I mean
talk about
fast.
relevancy in the realm of winning, and we're not there right now in many sports that matter.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying again, I'm not saying the sports that we're good at don't matter. Softball, great. Gymnastics, great. The big money.
They don't matter. They don't matter to
the
me.
big money.
I'll say they don't matter to me.
The
I don't care.
stuff that I care about.
Yeah.
We're not relevant. Like, I'm glad to see baseball off to the hot start, but I'm also pumping the brakes so I don't get disappointed when the Porter Moser effect has a chance to come to play in that sport. I think Skip Johnson's a good coach.
I mean, we did join the toughest conference.
He's going to go into
which is
Well, and in basketball too, it's crazy.
in the conference
I
schedule.
think
and
Big 12
football.
and SEC are comparable.
This year in basketball.
Well, this year
Not
the
even
SEC is
close.
better.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
we just left. The Big 12 the last 5 years has been the best in college.
Yeah. And then
And then
in
now we're
Porter's
joined-
defense, we left the best to join the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely hurts. And then in baseball, the SEC's always been the best.
Right.
And so
Top of
you're getting a tougher job to skip than he's had.
There's
since he's been here.
there's no easy series in the SEC. And like, and the thing that Skip's showing, I mean, going out and doing, I'm not trying to make this a baseball podcast, but you go and you beat the number 4 team and the number 2 team in the country in the same weekend. And I mean, I'm kind of raising my eyebrows a little bit. Like, what can this thing be? So,
Well, we love softball. We watch it. We watch them in the World Series. We're excited for it. We want championship, but that's just who I am. I don't care unless they're winning a championship. There's sports I care about and sports I don't, and or I'll care about them when they're at a certain level of relevancy, and that's a lot of fans too. You can say whatever you want. No one cares about OU softball. I mean, outside of a very small group of people, except for the fact that they're winning championships and they're the winningest team basically ever.
oh, that's what's
You know?
funny is like you talk to most OU fans, like, oh, huge OU softball fans. Yeah, because they're winning.
Yeah, where were you?
Yeah.
Where were you in the equivalent of the John Blake
Exactly.
years in softball?
Tell me,
Because I was in the stands.
Yeah, because yeah,
You were?
In the John Blake years?
John Blake years of softball?
No, I'm saying I was
Oh,
there
oh,
for football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
thought you were
so
talking about you were at the softball.
no, I'm calling out those
15 years ago.
those bandwagon fans.
and that's the
So-
thing. I want as a fan, I want to be engaged. I want to be getting emails saying like, hey, you know, OU's off to a great start.
Give us
Like,
the money.
Give us the money.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like you said earlier, give me the vision for what you're spending the money on, and then show me the product that you're producing results on the field or the court or wherever else,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna be more tempted to at least humor it. I tweeted back. I tweeted the other day on that. I can't even humor an email like that. Like it's a slap in the face.
Well, I did hear on, I think it was Scoop. It wasn't just Joe C sending that email. It
For sure,
was
no.
it was
No,
every
of
major
course not.
university sending that out to their season ticket holders, asking for donations to the athletic department because that's what has to be done now.
Yeah, but they're all tone deaf idiots. They're all doing a bad job of doing it. They're just saying, give us money.
I would
Well,
love
the
to
guy
see,
that when I pull off of 35 and onto Main Street, the same guy is always sitting there asking for me to give
Yeah.
him money.
He's the Air Force vet.
He's an Air Force vet, and he's $1 away from turning his life.
and guess
around,
how
right?
effective. Guess how effective that method is. Not
Exactly. Well, it's effective enough that it pays for him because a lot of people give money,
Yeah.
but not me. And it's the same to me. It's the same thing. It's like I need a vision. I need either proof in results or I need a vision. Like I'm willing to play the come. I'm willing to give you money and invest in something that's going to help turn it around and be better. But I need a reason to believe it's going to be better. I'm not just going to do it because you got the OU logo and I'm supposed to do it. I want them to give us more than that.
And we want better facilities and accommodations
Yes.
for the fans.
We want it. We want you to act like you care.
They're not spending money on us.
No, they're not. It's a bad. We get off on that on so many respects that it's a bad fan experience.
And that's where my frustration was from the tone deaf email the other day. It's like, I understand you guys need donations to operate your teams and your programs, but at the same time, you're not doing anything to make my experience at Owen Field or at Lloyd Noble or I mean, the best fan experience right now at OU is probably the softball stadium.
Yeah.
And what's that tell you?
And most of that's probably what's on the field plus the new facility.
Right. So I mean, it's
Why does everybody hate the baseball stadium?
Oh, I agree. I like.
tell you what I
no,
hate.
I don't hate the
I
baseball stadium.
don't like turf. That wears me out. We live in Oklahoma. You should have grass. It's stupid to have
Probably a money decision.
turf. I don't like the infield not being dirt. It's ridiculous. That wears me out. But
I don't disagree.
not having seat backs and just having concrete stairs essentially that you sit on.
Right.
I don't care.
No, I agree.
They closed in that right field berm where people would go watch for free and create a really good atmosphere out there.
I think
Yeah, now they've got these loge boxes out there.
I've seen the box of it, yeah.
And so yesterday I see pictures, and now people are sitting in center field and a little bit of left field in the grass because you can watch it for free. But like you were talking about earlier, I realize they have a budget, but they can make money selling concessions. I had the situation with the Oklahoma City Red Hawks 15 years ago. I bought the Burn Pass. It was $50 for the entire season, which is 71 home games in the minor leagues. So I got physical tickets to 71 home games for $50 to to go watch the Red Hawks when they were the affiliate for,
Rangers.
I guess it was the Rangers
The
then,
Rangers.
before they went to the Astros.
Yeah.
Right.
So I paid my $50. They gave me physical tickets. It was supposed to be to sit in right field, like a little playground is, because left field's turned into like a private event type thing or something.
Yeah, left center is like a
Like
private
corporate
event
thing,
thing,
right.
corporate thing, and then dead left field, they actually have bleachers out there behind the
Yeah.
bullpen.
Which, well, they used to have just bleachers out there. But anyway, so I would go first game of the season, I would have to sit out there because they actually sold most of the seats out. And then 4th of July, fireworks night, they would sell most of the seats out. And then usually the last game of the season. So they would have not complete sellouts, but close to 3 sellouts a season. And so if I decided to go to those games, I would have to sit in the burn pass. But every other game, I would sit, I don't know, 5 rows back behind a dugout. And I pay $50 for 71 home games. But you know how much money I spent on beer and hot dogs and
Yeah.
nachos and, you know, wooden baseball bats when I took the kids and all that stuff?
10 times the amount.
Easy.
Yeah.
And so you can't tell me that they were losing money by selling me these tickets for $50 for the
Even
whole
if
season.
they weren't probably losing money in the scheme of the whole thing. And the whole thing is minor leagues to go to the major leagues, right? And so all of these, outside of OU football, all of them are loss leaders. All of them lose money. It's just a matter of how we're losing money and what we want to do. I bet we can craft a model that loses the same amount of money and has 10 times the number of people in the stands for baseball.
They can make
I
a
bet you're right.
section behind home plate, you know, from essentially each dugout around with really nice comfy seats or something like that and sell those for $20 or $25 a piece. And then everything else is free.
Mm-hmm.
And then those people that go in for free that sit higher up or sit further out, they're buying the drinks, they're
Yes.
buying the food.
And more importantly, they're building a fan base, and
Yeah.
that fan base will be there. And if they had done that 10 and 15 years ago, right now with OU baseball where it is, you would have much bigger fan attendance at higher prices because people would care.
Yeah.
And they'd have a memory of it, and they'd be engaged with it. They'd be invested in it emotionally.
Well, and I love getting
No
out
one's
there,
invested.
but the decisions they make, like I actually looked into. So I think one season,
It's like $100 for a season ticket.
one GA season ticket is $125. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
But like for me,
At 4:00 Wednesday, it's kind of hard to make.
yeah, well but also I enjoy going to the games, but I'm kind of the like, I want to be comfortable at the game. Like I want to be accommodated. I want the seat backs. I want the box seats that are there. And so I try to inquire about those. Astronomically more expensive. And I swear you go to every OU game. We've sat on the right behind the on deck circle multiple times. There's seats everywhere in those box in those box seats.
Wide open.
And like they're not $20 a pop.
No, they're not.
And why are they not?
You got to see past the forest for the trees on this.
Yeah, and it's like I know that you think that seat is valued at that. You're not getting that value for what you're trying to sell it for.
Right.
So
There's a bigger picture. Build a fan base.
build a fan base. Make it easy. Make it accessible.
And what's funny is when I go to
And
football
competitive.
games,
Yeah.
I don't spend $1 on concessions at football games because we've talked about this 1,000
Yeah.
times. It's too hard to
Yeah.
wait in a
Oh,
45-minute line
Yeah.
to get a hot dog or beer or whatever. So I eat before I go to a football game. I sit in my seat. I don't come down until the game's over. But
25% of
baseball-
baseball is concession.
yeah, baseball is completely different.
Yeah.
it's in the song.
When
I will go
When I
get
go to a baseball
I'll
game,
go get 3 beers.
I'll spend $10 for a ticket. I'll drink 2 or 3 beers. You have to have a hot dog.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'll get nachos, and that's just for me. So I'm spending, if just in concessions, I'm
Oh,
spending,
OU prices
$25?
$100.
Yeah.
I'll spend $25 on concessions, and I spend 10 for my ticket, $35 for 2.5 hours of baseball game.
And that's what we're trying to say.
Okay.
Like that is
I'm in.
that is part of the experience.
It's part of the experience, and you got to change your mindset of quality and quantity. You need to start. Let's expand it and be quantity, and we can make hot dogs a lot cheaper and sell a whole lot of them in the same, whatever the loss is that we have, it'll be the same loss, but we've sold that many more hot dogs. We've got that many more fans that are engaged and involved in it and care about this thing and will care about it for years to come. Especially the young kids, the kids that grow up with it, and then they're going to be interested in
Are they
it.
losing money on $2 hot dog night?
I'm sure they're losing money on everything. Well, they're losing money on the entire program, so they're losing money.
Right, but the physical hot dog doesn't cost $2.
Yeah,
to make.
the marginal cost of the hot dog, it's not.
Right.
Yeah,
They probably got 50 cents between
Right,
the
I mean-
bun, the dog, and the mustard.
But and
You can
that
triple that quantity. You can
if you
triple that
have-
quantity, and you're not
if
going
you
to lose any
have
more money.
800 to 1,000 people show up, and everybody buys 2 hot dogs, and you're
That's the
making
minimum. You have to buy 2 hot
and you're
dogs.
making $1 per hot dog.
It's a two.
but even if you
You made
increase
$1,000.
that margin by 50% to $3,
Yeah.
like if that and that's what makes me so angry with like how they do it with the basketball team is they have the $2 beer nights or $2 Tuesdays for beer or whatever, and
there's
that's their
80 people in the
that's
two
their
lines that are
gimmick.
available.
That is extremely
Yeah.
frustrating. But their whole model is based on this is going to get people here. So you only care about games on Tuesday nights to get people in
Well, all of it
seats?
makes no sense because
Just make that
if
your
you wanna
model.
do
Make
it-
your entire
again,
model that.
there's a reason they sell Coke in the grocery store at a loss. It's a loss leader. You're getting people into the store. Get them into the store. But when they get to the store to buy the Coke is there.
Yeah.
They don't have to go. They don't have to wait in line with 80 other people to buy the Coke.
Right.
Go ahead and here's what it just blows my mind. You're losing money on all of this right now. It's not like I'm really messing with the sacred cow that has a great profit margin. I'm messing with the thing that you're losing money with. Let's find a new model that loses money in a different way that has more fan support.
And accessibility and
And
attainability.
and all of that. So to me, it's a vision problem all the way down. Let's change gears and end with some conversation about college football playoff because Jason, some thoughts. I want to see your guys' thoughts. He does not like the current discussion of the 4 auto bids for the SEC and the Big Ten. What do you guys think about
I
that?
haven't seen that.
That's what they're angling for. Is they want these auto bids. He doesn't like the auto bids, and I'd have to say I'll throw in. I don't like it either. I like if we're gonna stick with a 12-team regime, that's fine. I prefer it to be 16, or I really prefer 8, but they're never gonna go down to 8. I'd prefer it to be best whatever, best 8, best 12, best 16. Those are the teams that are in, and we're gonna seed them by how good they are. And I don't care if in a weird year 8 of those teams are SEC teams or Big Ten teams. That's just too bad. That's the way it needs to be for the best quality product.
And go by the rankings. I mean, it's like we said. So are they talking about 4 auto bids in the frame of the 12-team playoff
That's my
currently?
understanding. Yeah,
So 4 auto bids, and then you'd get an ACC,
Big 12,
a Big 12,
and a group of 5,
A
or
group
whatever
of
they are.
I
5.
thought they were looking at that. They went to 14 or something like that.
Oh, maybe that's it.
14.
It was.
14's a weird number. All of it's weird.
I mean, we've talked about it. I think 8's the best number,
They'll never scale
but
it.
they're
back.
never going back.
They'll
They're
never
never
scale
going
it back.
But 16's too many.
But
I mean,
16
because-
and they're all playing.
Because like we've talked about, right now you've got 12, 9, 10, 11, 12. They got no shot at winning.
Yeah, right.
They're not going to put together 3 games in a row of playing the best competition and win. Yeah, I mean, we just in a decade you may have
No.
one of those teams might make the championship game, maybe.
Well,
Go
ahead.
The only thing I'll say about the 4 auto bids is it gets us closer to what we want in terms of the
Super conference.
super conferences.
Yeah, it is a step in that direction, which might be the strategic
And I
move
think
those two
that may be
conferences are
kind of the
doing.
positioning that they are getting after.
And that may apply pressure to guys to join those conferences and super conference it up, which I would
and exclude
like-
people from them.
exclude the rest, because that relates to my other problem with if we go to, even in the 12 regime, which we saw, and in a 16 regime, I do not want to see a team who is number 1, 2, 3, or 4 have to play a team who is not good. That's not fair to them. Or excuse me, who is good. That's not fair to them. They should be playing a true 16. A number 1 should play a true 16, not a 16 that's 16 only because we gave these automatic bids to these other guys, and you're actually playing someone who's the number 8 team in the country. That's not fair to the number 1 team who's earned the right to be number 1. And I think that would be a detriment to the entire playoff as well.
I think he's also talked about reseeding. Is that one of the things?
Well, he said he liked the 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5 to get auto bids and use play-ins if necessary. I didn't exactly understand what he was coming from there.
It sounds like reseeding is going to be a thing, though. Like that.
Is it?
I mean,
I don't like that. I don't like reseeding.
I don't
I like
either.
knowing the path.
I like knowing. I think.
I like
again,
filling out a bracket.
Yeah, exactly. And I like ranking it fairly 1 through 12 at this point and making that like I know we've discussed this at length in our last couple pods,
We're
but
gonna keep discussing it till they get it right.
Yeah.
Damn it.
and like it's not right now. Like
I
well-
worry about the reseed that I mean, I guess what they're saying is if there's an upset, then all of a sudden that's going to be a different scenario so that a team doesn't have to play a
Correct.
really good team. But
I don't
to
think it
me,
doesn't solve all your issues.
well, it doesn't solve all your issues. And as good as I do think the rankings tend to be, they're not perfect. And so it may be that you discover in that first round of the playoff that the team that everybody thought was really good is just not that good. Or maybe they've got injuries and they're not that good. And so all of a sudden you think that this is an upset and it's not an upset. That's actually the better team. So
I think the odd like I don't mind the 4 large auto bids into the playoff, not into the buys, but into the playoff itself,
uh-huh,
and then letting the rest of the field fill out
fill it out.
as it comes. So, 8 auto bids seems extreme, but like I said, I think it is a step in the right direction towards a super conference. I just think that I don't know.
If
I
you're
mean,
one of those other conferences, though, why do you agree to that? If the
Because you have to.
ACC,
I
the
think
Big
you have
12
to.
have the same pool as the Big 10 and the SEC,
but they don't.
they don't. But I'm not gonna say legally, but they currently all get a vote. Let's say.
Well, but then you say if
Why-
you don't like it, leave. And that would be you'd be giving
That's
the
us
SEC
getting
and the
into
Big
Super
Ten
Conference.
exactly what they want.
Right.
Right.
But if you're the ACC this year, Clemson won the title, but Miami had just as much of a reason to get in as some of the other teams that got in. I mean, Miami could beat Boise pretty easily, I think.
Miami could have probably beaten SMU.
They're in the same conference.
I know. That's what I'm
So
saying.
But
Like,
then you get to play in the championship.
Indiana got in. They turned out to be a fraud because they had such an easy schedule. I would have taken an Ole Miss or South Carolina could beat Indiana.
Yeah.
But they didn't get the chance. I don't know.
I like for one, I think you've got to take some, and the committee never would do this, but you got to have some humility and know that it's only 12 games in the regular season. It's not a statistically significant sampling.
Right.
So we got to go off of the record as it is. And you've got to maintain integrity. And you got to say, this is what we're going to do. There's upsets, there's weird things, there's flukes. There's teams like Miami who won some games they shouldn't have won, whatever. The record is what the record is. That's what we got to go off of. And we're going to schedule it and align it, seed it by where they actually finished and go from there and not second guess it all the way down, including a weird arbitrary rule that second guesses it by saying, okay, you're clearly not one of the best 4 teams, but because you won a conference, you're going to be one of the best, the
Right.
top 4 teams.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
That's bad for the sport.
well, and I think one of my biggest frustrations ever since the playoff has started is the value of a loss against a good team has astronomically increased. Like it's given so much weight to these teams that, they're a great team and look at who they lost to. Like look at their 1 or 2 losses and who their losses are against. As opposed to propping up wins for teams that are on the fringe. And that frustrates me a lot as well. Like there's right and wrong. And the logic just seems so backwards in a lot of these cases. And again, you could dig through it and boil it down to like we all understand it's for TV and for revenue and stuff like that, and who's going to be on the screen and get the most views, and how they get to those teams to make sure that happens. I think that's a real thing. I don't know. It's just for the integrity of the sport, it sucks, but that's why there's just got to be a standard way to do it.
You got to have standards and you got to live up to them.
Yeah.
And part of the thing that we complained about with the committee, and we've always complained about, is the arbitrary nature of it. Well, this is just introducing new arbitrariness into it.
You
we need
keep
to
adding
remove it.
levels of arbitrary.
Rewind before even the BCS, everyone wanted the arbitrary out of it.
Yeah.
They wanted the judgment calls and the differences of opinion out of it. Well, this is just reintroducing that. They wanted a playoff because they wanted to say, let's let teams find their way and everyone wants a true champion and the true champion wins their way to it. Well, now you're handicapping different teams by circumstance. That's not fair. The best team in the country might be the second best team in the SEC. Sorry, that just might be the case.
Yeah.
Let them win their way there.
Right.
Don't handicap them and give someone else an acceleration because they happen to be the winner of a conference that is not necessarily good this year. but historically might have been good. That's just silly to me. Anything else to cover, guys? Covered a lot of ground. I think this off season of anger, angst, and apathy is going to continue. We'll call this the AAA. We'll be back in about a month to cover some more and see what new developments have arisen. We'll be in the middle of spring ball.
Pushing spring ball at that point.
Yeah.
So
Send
we'll
us some
talking about
tweets or
that.
DM if you got anything you want us to cover.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about the end of the spring game, and this might be the last one. I did want to cover that, but I, as an old timer, I kind of hate to see it go, but I understand. I think that it's a BS rationale that they're giving. I don't buy this. I think it's a couple different things. I'm sure they don't want to have to do it. I'm sure they don't like it, but they're giving these BS reasons. I think of, oh, they're going to scout my team. And I'm sure there's lots of people that don't want you to see that what they want to, do, the Lincoln Riley secretiveness. I
think
get
it's
that,
more player
but no one's.
based.
You think that the players don't want to do it?
No, it seems like from what I've read, like Texas isn't going to have one because they don't want their players looking really good in the spring.
No,
game and
that's
getting
right.
poached.
That's what I call BS. I think that's BS.
I do too.
I think that's a BS rationale because it sounds right, and I also think it's oh, they're going to steal it away from NIL. But if we only had more NIL money, then we could compete. They don't want to do it. If
they fix the transfer portal timeframes, that it won't be an issue.
That'd be interesting to see if they
If
change
there was
that.
no transfer portal after March.
If that would give more, well, that would
the spring
steal
game happens in
away
April.
their argument, and then see if we still don't want to do it,
Yeah.
and I think they still don't want to do it.
Tie game was 6:39 left.
All right, tie game is 6:39. We're gonna watch the rest. Let's hope the Sooners win. Until next time, Boomer.
Sooner.